will stop the steal.
So long a loyal lieutenant of the president turned on him with this withering assessment.
This election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side. Our democracy.
Is going to have to come through for us, and if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country.
But finally, after more than 4 years of unfailing loyalty, Mike Pence broke with Donald Trump. The moment caught on a hot mic.
Is my statement out?
Yes, sir, it is.
Pence's statement was blunt. I do not believe that the founders of our country intended to invest the vice president with unilateral authority to decide which electoral votes should be counted. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell broke with the president, too, telling his sharply divided Republican colleagues that this election must stand.
Voters, courts, the states have all spoken.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn in the past few hours, as thousands of supporters of President Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol building, venting their anger at the victory of Joe Biden in the presidential.
It's hard to put into words what exactly we witnessed today, because we've not seen this before. Thousands storming the Capitol after a rally with President Trump, during which he urged them to march on the Capitol, where a joint session of Congress was debating and working to certify the election as our
stormed the Congress, where America's elected leaders had gathered to certify the election victory of Joe Biden. Earlier, in a rally outside the White House, Donald Trump encouraged his loyal base to fight to overturn the result of this bitterly contested. Has emptied, democracy put on hold. Outside, they were scaling the ramparts, the mob for the moment in charge, believing they have the right to overthrow the will of the people. Tonight, the shining city on the hill, as America likes to describe itself, feels as though the light of democracy is flickering dangerously. Johnson.
Building went into lockdown, but protesters were already inside, marching through Statuary Hall. His own supporters to confront members of Congress and even his own vice president, who were preparing to certify the election. They stormed the Capitol, clashing with police, breaking windows, scaling the scaffolding, fights breaking out in restricted areas of the building, officers outnumbered. In the House chamber, lawmakers dove for cover beneath their desks. Agents with guns drawn, their fingers on the trigger, guarding the barricaded door.
There's pushing through this door, Capitol Police unable to hold them back. Others smashing through windows of the Capitol. There were so many chaotic moments, the tense interactions with Capitol Police overwhelmed. Members of Congress and their staffs rushing for cover. Reporters told not to reveal their whereabouts. This image tonight of a man walking through Statuary Hall carrying a Confederate flag. Another startling image from inside the office of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Some trying to breach the House chamber, armed security barricading the door, keeping them out. Behind them, members were taking shelter, some of them on the floor, some told to grab their gas masks to protect against tear gas. In an empty Senate chamber, this Trump supporter at the front of the chamber declaring Donald Trump won that election. The march to the Capitol following those words from President Trump, speaking to his supporters, who he invited to Washington, saying you have to show strength, telling them to march to the Hill. And as nightfall approached tonight, the heavy presence, the National Guard joining local police and the FBI, the curfew now in effect. And of course, so many questions tonight.
Violence and disorder.
My oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming unilateral authority to decide which electoral votes should be counted. And he went on, the presidency belongs to the people and to them alone. And the president-elect has gone on television to warn that American democracy is under unprecedented assault, and he made this appeal.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege. To storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection.
Donald Trump has spoken. He called on his supporters to stand down, but condemnation, there was none.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
The chamber has emptied, democracy put on hold. Outside they were scaling the ramparts, the mob for the moment in charge, believing they have the right to overthrow the will of the people. Tonight, the shining city on the hill, as America likes to describe itself, feels as though the light of democracy is flickering dangerously.
The issue for a moment, because I got to tell you, I used to live here and work in these buildings as you continue to do. There's this sense that this show of force is the deterrent. That who would dare cross this line? But now that this has been exposed and a group of marauding protesters were able to come into Congress, not on just any given Tuesday when there's a handful of folks.
We've seen this in Washington before. There's a vulnerability is exposed, and then there's this immediate attempt to try to see if they can remedy it. And the real balance in the Capitol is this. It is a public place. There is you want this feeling that people can come here and walk the halls of Congress, the People's House, things like that. But we obviously have to rethink security around here. This was a total, complete disaster. And again, we're lucky that didn't turn into a hostage situation. That's what makes this, how the Capitol Police performed, just mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling.
Whatever is going to happen, Savannah, the old ways of doing things, I think, are going to have to be completely rethought and reevaluated. I don't think any of us, I've been covering this town for 15 years, and we've never seen anything like this. I think for a lot of us, this was simply unimaginable. I have gone to work at the Capitol, every day on and off for over a decade. And normally, You see protesters outside. I mean, it's a regular occurrence, right? There's a long tradition of protesting in Washington. I arrived to the Capitol yesterday. I honestly was a little bit nervous, more nervous than I normally would have been, but I don't think any of us expected that they would breach the building, let alone the floors, the chambers, the places where these lawmakers do their work. And, I think Chuck's point is the right one. I mean, I've always been struck by the fact that there's a commitment to being open at the Capitol. This is the people's House, the people's Senate doing the people's work, and the people have a right. It's time. But I think that there are incredibly difficult questions now that are going to have to be answered about how this was allowed to happen and how they find the right balance there. And
Savannah, think about that question you just asked. What do you think Republicans are going to do? We asked that when he came down the escalator and attacked Mexican immigrants. We asked that when he attacked John McCain. We asked that when he denied the results of the Iowa caucuses. We've been asking this question for 5 years now. It is interesting to me. Take Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham began as a Trump skeptic and a Trump critic, then sidled up to him when Trump got power, and now as Trump is losing power, he's a Trump critic again. And look, he's not alone, but in some way he's the avatar.
The undersigned, Roy Blunt and Amy Klobuchar, tellers on the part of the Senate, Zoe Lofgren and Rodney Davis, tellers on the part of the House of Representatives, report the following as a result of the ascertainment and counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President of the United States for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2021. The report we make is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be the president and the vice president according to the ballots that have been given to us.
He has a statement.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes. The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 306 votes. Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana has received 232 votes. The announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States, each for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2021, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the Senate and the House of Representatives.